Opportunity. It's all around us. Opportunity to find the perfect property, to connect with motivated sellers and cash buyers, and to get the best return on your investments. It's time to seize the opportunity with the power of PropStream. PropStream is the most advanced real estate tool for investors, realtors, and brokers who want to simplify and accelerate their business through useful, up-to-date, multi-source data and targeted marketing. But you already know that. And you already know PropStream allows you to search and evaluate over 153 million properties nationwide and easily run comps to determine current and potential value. And we use the power of big data to give you access to the most comprehensive information you need to make decisions that deliver success. Our unmatched solutions allow you to generate qualified leads, find the most motivated sellers, and engage them with an array of effective marketing tools. This is beyond powerful. And now, you and your team can have the full power of PropStream right in your pocket with our new mobile app. Access PropStream on your phone or tablet. Use it to get property details, run comps, and send marketing right on the spot. And rest assured, we've also taken driving for dollars to the next level. Now is the time to focus, create opportunities, and close more deals. It's time to unleash the power of PropStream.
What's up with it? What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Nothing But Nuggets podcast, the PropStream edition. Shouts out to my guys over there in California. Today I got a very special guest, my guy Burton. If you don't know who Burton is, you should get yourself very acquainted with him. He is the guy that knows data. Data is king. And today we're going to put out a few myths. We're going to answer some questions, and we're going to give you some insight on how to take your data to the next level and generate some crazy awesome leads utilizing PropStream. Welcome to the podcast, Burton. Introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are.
Hey, everyone. Well, thanks for having me, Antoine. My name is Burton. I'm pretty much PropStream's tour guide. I'm here to just pretty much clear out any questions that need to be addressed about PropStream. But I'm really here to share my experience and all the knowledge I know about just data, real estate data. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. Welcome on. Can you, for someone new, can you explain to them what is PropStream and what is the benefits of PropStream? Why should every real estate investor be utilizing something like a PropStream?
Good question. So before PropStream ever existed, before technology, data was only acquired by physically acquiring it through the county's office, tax assessor's office, dealing with an agent to get their MLS listings. We've actually become that source for you. So what we do is we go out there and get those records for you. So that way, at the comfort of your home, you're able to just generate a list of motivated sellers using over 14 quick list options that we've created for you. You're also able to get contact information through our skip tracing and directly market. So the idea was within hopefully a few moments of your time throughout the day, you're able to generate leads and directly market to them. Now, at the same time, not only are we a lead generation system, but assuming that you do market and someone does call you back because they're interested in selling, PropStream also helps you out by allowing you to analyze specific properties. So you can search a specific property, get all the details that we've collected on that property. You'll be able to run comps using public records or MLS records. So that way you can make the best informed decision and offer when you're dealing with homeowners and as well as your sellers or buyers, I should say.
Awesome. And so, speaking of PropStream, like, what are some things that out the gate that a new person or anybody new to the software can, benefit from? Besides, I know you said you can get MLS comps. What are some other things that is beneficial for PropStream?
Just the ability to go into our system and search a market nationwide and get access to pre-foreclosures, auctions, foreclosures, the MLS, vacant listings, high equity properties. We have liens, bankruptcies, divorces. But I think the most important part about PropStream is that not only do we provide lists that you can pull motivated sellers or buyers from, but we've crafted PropStream to be a platform where you can generate a problem, because that's the thing what real estate investors do is they They go out there and they solve problems that homeowners are facing. And that's where the real profit comes from, right? Solving a problem by providing a solution to this homeowner, essentially giving them a second opportunity. And that's what we've designed PropStream to become in the last 15 years, is that it's not just a system where you can go in there and sure get a pre-foreclosure list, but it's a system where you can stack things on top of each other. So you can look for a pre-foreclosure that may have been listed on the MLS, but recently failed. So now we're not just looking for one list, we're stacking them together. PropStream is also a system where we have over 150 different filters to which the user can essentially create their own problem. And that's the thing. I do get a lot of questions at our call center. Burton, what are the best lists to choose from? What are the best leads? And that's the tricky question, is because every investor is different. And so I've come to finally understand that a lead is really a problem. And you can use our filtering and the 150 filter options to generate a problem. And that problem could be that they're out of state. It could be that the property is 50 years or older. It could be that they have 3 mortgages on that property. So there's all sorts of problems that you can generate through PropStream's filter. And I want to emphasize that, because a lot of new users and even seasoned investors get kind of tunnel vision, and they start believing that all they need to do is pull a list. And that's not the case. What you got to do is go in there and build a problem in which you can solve. And those will be the unique leads that you're not going to be able to find at the county's office or through the MLS. You're going to be able to find it because of the data that we've collected and applied these filters for you to isolate certain parts of data from certain aggregators that we have, because we have more than one provider of data. So the filters that we've created allow you to pick which data that you want from our providers, that you can make that best motivated sellers list.
Yeah, and I think, like, people ask me all the time, like, what's your best list? And my response to them is, it depends on, like you said, what I'm looking for. And what's the importance of a seller, a real estate investor, slowing down before they pull their list and create a profile? I call it creating that perfect profile of that ideal customer that you're looking to target. What are some sample lists that you can kind of provide people out the gate that they can whip up really quick to get some motivated sellers on the phone?
That's a great question. So the way that I always look at it is, it first is dictated by the investor himself or herself.
Right.
What does that investor know? What strategies do you know? And based on that, it will dictate the type of leads that you're going to need, right? So let's just pull out a strategy, for example. So wholesaling, right? So if I'm a wholesaler, or if any of our viewers are wholesalers, there are some rules that wholesalers need to follow. And one of the most important rules is there needs to be equity on the property. If there's no equity on the property, you're not going to get your assignment fee, or you're not going to be able to get it on contract to sell it to an investor to make profit, right? So if we're wholesaling, instantaneously, when we're using PropStream, we're going to want to make sure the property has equity. Whatever that percentage is, it could be 50% or more, 70% or more. Pretty much you want it as high as possible. That way you can get your assignment fee and still offer the contract to an investor, and then they can make profit as well. So first thing is, if you're wholesaling, you got to have equity. Another common thing that you're going to want is obviously no other contracts assigned, right? So we're going to probably want an off-market property that's not assigned another contract with an agent, right? So having access to our MLS is important, because not only are you able to pull a pre-foreclosure list from us, which is one of the highest motivated categories there is out there, but at the same time, you can take that list from the county's office, which we collected it from, and use our MLS database to say, okay, which ones of these are off market? So right then and there, we just saved some moments, a few phone calls by having to call an agent who has MLS to tell them, which ones of these pre-foreclosures are not assigned a contract with another agent, right? So that's the important part, is that you got to know what strategy you're gonna apply, and based on that strategy, there are certain core components. So wholesaling, equity, off market, and the third one I usually like to say is the hovering part, which is motivation. And motivation is anything. It could be, again, high equity, off market, and the motivation could be that they're out of state. The motivation could be that it's vacant. Now, some elements could be higher levels of motivation, right? So a pre-foreclosure versus a person who just got a tax lien this morning, there is a difference of motivation. A pre-foreclosure is faced with perhaps an auction in the next month versus a tax lien where they probably have months, maybe a few years to solve. But at the end of the day, a wholesaler needs at least two of the three elements: equity, off market, and then that motivation, which again could be low level motivation or high level motivation. So that's the thing about the best list. And so I usually always ask the person asking that question, what do you know? What strategies can you implement? Because if you tell me I can do wholesaling, I can do subject twos and lease options and a bunch of other strategies, then that filter can change. If you can do subject twos and creative seller financing, then we don't need to look for equity, right? It could be high or low because your team or you yourself know different strategies. If you call an owner and there's low equity, creative seller financing. If you call an owner and there's a lot of equity, that can be both creative seller financing or a wholesale opportunity. And so the first thing I think anybody should need to know is, what strategy are you going to implement? What strategies do you know? And based on that, it's going to dictate the type of leads that you need. And so again, wholesaling, equity, off market, and that motivation. If you're looking for the highest level of motivation where it maybe takes one or a few phone calls, and not guaranteeing anything, but highest level motivation means that homeowners are really at the last point. And so this would be kind of a category where it may take just a few follow-ups to get something to go through, right? Versus those low-level motivations like failed listings, tax liens, divorces, because those can take time, right? It's not like they're racing against the bank who's about to auction their property next week or next month. These are situations that can unfold over a few months. And that's where I believe follow-up is very important. I think that's a missing component. A lot of people want to make that first phone call and try to close a deal in that first phone call. And that is not the reality in most cases. Some of the leads that you're going to pull that are the lower level motivations may take a few months or several follow-ups, before they decide to even take your offer on the options that you're providing to help them with, right? So I think that is just it is a loaded question, but I just wanted to kind of redirect that to let the users know, anybody watching, at the end of the day, it's going to dictate on what that's going to allow you to pull the best leads for your business, period. But if you were to ask me in general, what are the best lists that mostly both wholesalers and anybody in general are looking for? Vacant properties, out-of-state owners, absentee owners, liens are big ones, and then pre-foreclosures, of course. Those have always been at the top of the list. But again, when we're dealing with certain categories, you're dealing with competition. And again, I always emphasize with PropStream, if there is a category in your market that's very competitive, like pre-foreclosures, then our system allows you to suppress that. You can say, okay, I don't want pre-foreclosures. I want to go to this other category that is not as motivated or not as impacted with other investors. So I hope that answers the question. I know it's a scapegoat answer, but it's the best I can give you.
Yeah, it's a good question. You did a good answer. What about people that's in these non-disclosure states? What are some things that PropStream offer to ensure that they get a good list, being though they're in taxes or any other non-disclosure
Question.
state?
So I think there's a misconception with data and non-disclosure state. So at the end of the day, a non-disclosure state, the only thing that's different is that we don't get the sell amount, right? So when a property sells and it goes to the county's office and then they release that record publicly, the sell amount that they have is an estimation. Now, sometimes it's on point and sometimes it's off by a few thousand or several thousand. And so that's really it. When you're in one of these 14 non-disclosure states, the challenge that you're going to be faced with is whatever the value that's been recorded on public record in terms of what it sold for is not accurate, right? So does that hinder any of the list types? No, you're still going to be able to get MLS. You're still going to be able to get vacant listings. You're still going to be able to get pre-foreclosures. So nothing changes there. The only things that can change are, for example, the cash buyers lists. When you're pulling cash buyers in a non-disclosure state, they're not going to show you what the buyer paid for. So we know that it's a cash transaction, but we're not going to be able to show you what the amount is because it's not essentially recorded. So that is a misconception that a lot of people think that our system will not be able to generate leads for them in non-disclosure states, and that's completely inaccurate. We can still let you look for vacant listings. You can still look for failed listings. You can still look for pre-foreclosures and auctions. The only challenging part when you're in a non-disclosure state is when you're comping properties. When you're trying to get a value of a property in a non-disclosure state, the only thing that you need to do is make sure that you're using our MLS database when you're running comps, because the MLS database is completely different from county records. They go by a different set of rules. So where the county, for whatever reason, provides an estimated value, the MLS actually gives us what the agent listed and what it sold for. So in our system, not only do we encourage you to use MLS, but we've actually implemented a recent update where if you are in any of these 14 states and you're trying to run comps on PropStream, it will automatically default to MLS. And if you try to use public records, it will actually warn you or advise you that you're going to be getting estimated values. So
Right.
that's really the only thing that anybody in any of these 14 states that are non-disclosure just has to worry about. Is you could still build lists with PropStream. It's just when you're running comps, just make sure you're using MLS, and that's about it.
I got a few questions here I want to kind of get out the way really quick. And then if you don't mind, you can actually share your screen here to show people some different examples of what they can do with PropStream, what types of lists.
Sure.
And what's your go-to list? I know you probably got a preferred list that you like to recommend to the clients that works with you. So team dot a dot sorry asks, can I do a search for properties that refinanced back in 2010?
No, so you're not able to search for mortgage information or mortgage type. So you're not going to be able to search for a property that was refinanced. However, you can search for properties that have two mortgages, maybe a property that might have a second on there. Now, usually I only say that because I do see a lot of individuals that pull seconds also want, typically have a behavior of also refinancing the first. But no, there isn't a way for you to go in there in our filter and say, I want a property that refinanced a loan back in 2010. That won't be the case. But you can, in our system, say, I want properties that have been owned since 2010 up until today that have one mortgage on them. And so you're just going to have to go through the results and in our mortgage transaction history, see if any of them have been refinanced. So we do show you if a loan has been refinanced, but it's not a searchable criteria.
Right. Awesome. And Daryl Hill asks, is there a way to pull pre-foreclosures for an entire greater metro city?
The best way to do that is to search by county. So you can search by county by typing the name of the county, followed by a comma, a space, and the abbreviation of the state. That's one way to go about it. If you're still dealing with a larger environment, the biggest search possible is county level, but you can, and I might be able to show you that in a few moments, you can create a blank template. So a template that has certain filters that you're looking for. And after you create this template, you can then search city by city, county by county, and this template will only isolate the filters that you're looking for in every single search that you perform right after that.
Someone said, how can I pull prospects with VA loans?
So again, mortgage types isn't a searchable item, at least at the moment. So you won't be able to search for VA loans. I guess the best way to do that again is just looking for a behavior. Now, because you're not able to look for a VA loan, you might need to think a little bit outside the box. Like out here in Southern California, San Clemente is just near Camp Pendleton in between San Diego and Orange County. And a lot of military tend to live in Camp Pendleton or just north of that, which is San Clemente, or just south of that. So although you can't search for VA loans, I can probably search an environment where most military individuals will either move into or retire in. And that would probably be a great way to find any properties that have been owned for several months or several years with one mortgage or more. And then it's just a matter of going through the records and seeing which ones have a VA loan or not.
Awesome. Oh yeah, so if you can see that share screen button, you click that, get a computer permission to access your screen, and then you can share the screen.
You got it. Hang on 1 second here. Let me just log in. All right, here we go. Cool, and I think my screen should be pulling up now.
Cool. So yeah, I added to the string. Once you're good, I added. Voila, here we go.
I'm just loaded up PropStream right now, so bear with me. Cool. Do we have any other questions while that bad boy's loading up?
Let me check and make sure I didn't miss anything. So far, so good.
Okay, perfect. So your question earlier was, show anything that I think would be interested that investors should probably consider nowadays. Is that correct? Or
Right.
like
Exactly.
okay. So I've been with PropStream for a good 7 years, and in those 7 years, your markets have changed. And the thing is, we deal with nationwide data. And although I'm in Southern California, our market's been pretty okay in the last 7 years, but markets will change dramatically in throughout the United States. Some markets are doing extremely well, and some markets are not doing well. And I think the thing to note is that you have to kind of understand current affairs, right? So this is a perfect conversation to have about the coronavirus. So this year, an unprecedented thing happened. COVID-19 hit, and it pretty much shut down like the entire United States. And what I mean by shutting down is that things happen that we never thought would happen, right? So, for example, if I'm in Southern California, like Orange County, let's use that, or let's use a different area, Phoenix, Arizona. So let's go to Phoenix, and what has happened because of coronavirus is that businesses not only shut down, but things across the board have shut down, like the county offices, auction houses. So prior to Corona or COVID-19, the pre foreclosures and auctions have always been a hot thing. But what had happened is after these, courthouses closed, what I believe happened is that all these auctions, and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody out there, but I'm sure that this may have been the case across the board, but a lot of these auctions were delayed or postponed to a much later date. Now, that's a good thing, and it also could also be a challenging thing. The good thing is now you an investor have more time to work with a person that's in auction, or maybe you're going to the county's office, or maybe you're in PropStream now and you're looking through the auction and you see something that was supposed to be auctioned off in May. Well, good thing is that it may not have been auctioned in May because of the delay or the courthouse being closed. So it may have been postponed. And as you can see here, 281 auctions, and a lot of them are in July. And as we go further, then you're seeing a lot in September. So I think this area has kind of played it safe and just pushed everything back up until the third quarter. And so that's a positive for some investors because they get to work with these homeowners for a longer time. Now, again, let's talk about the homeowner. So here's a homeowner who was supposed to be auctioned, let's say this month, and the courts are now closed. And so things are delayed. Now their auction is in September. So what's happening with that homeowner? Well, I believe what's happening is that the motivation has kind of taken just a frozen status. So a homeowner who's going to get auctioned in 2 weeks versus a homeowner who just got delayed for another 90 days, I believe the motivation is not as high anymore, in a sense that a person with 2 weeks from now to lose their home may want to deal with you right away on that call that you're going to make today, versus the person who just got delayed for another 90 days. They're probably going to say no to you just a little bit longer. And so this is a type of thing that I always think about. It's weird. My mind just works in a weird way where I think about, motivation, and motivation is like what's happening out there. Right. And so if out there courts are closed, auctions, houses are closed, then that means like pre-foreclosures, auctions, and foreclosures, they have much longer time, including like the liens and bankruptcies. Like things have been pushed back a little bit. So if you're wondering why, when you're calling pre-foreclosures right now, people are just not really motivated, that's probably a reason. Okay. So, but there's always two sides of the coin, right? So if these pre-foreclosures and auctions who were motivated are not as motivated anymore because they have more time now to say no to you, well, who doesn't have time now? And there's always that other side of the coin. And I believe that what we're not paying attention to right now are the landlords. So I've heard, and the number could be much higher or lower now, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I was reading the last few weeks ago that there were about 33 million individuals who have filed for unemployment. And I can assume,
I think it's around 38.
Okay, so that's a lot. And I could assume that maybe 50% of them are renting out a property or renters, right? And so if that is the case, then there's 19 million households or properties that are being rented out that a tenant has now filed for unemployment. And so, as I mentioned in the very beginning, elite is a problem. And so I just understanding that one problem got more time while the others are now facing tenants who aren't paying. And guess what? With the HEROES Act, I believe you can't evict. That could be different now. I know that some states are starting to open that up, but eviction was put on hold for a little bit. So if you can't evict someone who's not paying their rent, then who's going to pay the mortgage on that property? And that's when it dawned upon me. The landlords are now the ones that I believe are
Right.
motivated now. And so using those 150 filters, what we can do is we can find, let's say, a high equity property that's non-owner occupied, that currently has a tenant in that property. So it's non-owner occupied, but occupied by somebody. And let's say it's a residential single family. But the thing is that this property is owned by an individual. Let's say they're committed. They've been renting out this property for 8 years or more, 10 years or more. You choose the number. But the challenge is that they're in a different state, right?
Right.
And to make things worse is that there is a mortgage on that cash flowing property. So not only are you renting out a property in a different state, but that property you're renting out has a mortgage on it. So let's think about why that would happen. Let's say I buy an investment property using a mortgage, and my mortgage is $1,000, and then later on decide, I'm gonna rent out my property. Since there's a mortgage on that property, I'm probably going to need to rent it out for more than $1,000. Let's say $1,500, right? So now I'm renting out a property for $1,500. It's paying my mortgage, and I'm getting $500 in cash flow every month passively, right? But then COVID-19 hits, and my tenant, who's supposed to be paying $1,500 a month, is not paying it anymore, and I can't evict them. And maybe they're not answering my phone call all of a sudden, right? Maybe the phone number got disconnected because just things went south for them.
Right.
I'm in a different state, and now I can't get a hold of my tenant who's not paying the bill. And I have to pay for that $1,000 mortgage that's on my investment property in a different state. And with COVID-19 right now, I'm going to even not consider flying to a different state. So what do? I'm a landlord in a different state. My tenant's not answering my phone call, and they're not paying the bill. I'm now liable of paying that $1,000 mortgage. And this right here, I believe, are the things that people are not looking for, right? Because we're looking for a list. Instead, we're not looking for the problem. Right now, there's a new problem. That problem is there's 1,300 landlords in this area that have owned a property for 8 years or more. They live in a different state, and every one of them has a mortgage. Now, I am not saying that all 1,300 are great leads. This is a numbers game. What I'm saying is that if we were to theoretically call 1,300 of them, that some of them are going to express to us that they may have a tenant there that's not paying the rent. And that's what could lead into a possible solution that you can provide, right? You might know a strategy, or you might, they may have not been paying for the last 2 months, and now this homeowner who's cash flowing it is now 2 months of mortgage or 2 months in debt. So now we went from cash flowing. So your property could potentially be heading into pre-foreclosure because your tenant didn't pay the rent and you didn't have the money prepared to pay that rent. And I've always been told by a mentor of mine, and it really made sense in the long run. But he said that there is a term that's commonly used, and it's that a lot of people live paycheck to paycheck. Hey, I was one of them. I totally get it. And that there's also landlords that live rent check to rent check. And I was like, well, what do you mean by that?
Like that?
Yeah. And I was like, what do you mean by that? And he gave me a perfect analogy. He's like, have you ever rented a property or an apartment for it? I'm like, yeah, I have. And have you ever noticed that the owner of the property is either really, really nice or really, really aggressive? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, it's because the really, really nice one is financially responsible. They're stable. Life is good. They have savings. That's why the really, really nice landlord is cool if you don't make the payment, right? They're like, oh, you know what, just pay it next week. Or you know what, we'll give you a discount. Because these landlords are fully financially responsible. But the other ones that, hey, you missed your rent, you didn't pay it yesterday, we're going to put a $35, late fee on it. Well, the reason why you're doing that is because you need that rent. You need that rent from me to continue your business. So it's a numbers game. In these 1,300 results here, there are those landlords that are good. When you call them, they're going to be like, hey, we're good. We don't need your help. But then there are the other ones that are like, yeah, I can't get hold of my tenant. You're local, so make me an offer, perhaps. Right now, again, I'm just being theoretical, but that is a situation that you need to consider, and that's why we built it that way. Is because things are going to happen that we can't control, right? I mean, we collect data, but what happens out there in the real world is going to go up and down and up and down. And one day, one set of individuals may be the highest motivated group, and then all of a sudden something happens and it's this other group that is now motivated. And I think that's what had happened with COVID-19, where we went from pre-foreclosures and auctions, they're the hottest list because they're about to get auctioned in 30 days, to, oh, whoa, the courthouses are not doing any auctions now. And so these pre-foreclosures and auctions, they're not saying yes as easily anymore. So we either can still work with them, and it just takes a little bit longer. And I still encourage you, work with them, right? Be patient. I hope that what I explained to you is that aha moment. That's why they're saying no. So please be more patient with these pre-foreclosures and auctions. But at the same time, don't just wait for them, because there's another group of individuals out there that are suffering. And that would be, in my case, landlords with a mortgage payment that they need to worry about, that the tenant may or may not be paying anymore. So I hope this is an example of why a lead is not a list. A lead is a problem that you can build within our filtering system.
Awesome. So yeah, last night, because I do this first deal mastery program that I had, that I help a bunch of people. We give them a call once a week. Now, one thing they pointed out to me was when they use their list automator, when a property gets updated, they don't see if the property was taken off or if it was added on and which property was added on. Can you maybe explain to them
Yes, good
exactly
question.
how that works?
So the reason that is happening is when you build a list, so like my Fulton County highly motivated tax lien list, and you decide to automate it. And for those of you that are wondering what that is, we have a feature called List Automator, which is an add-on. And what List Automator does is it monitors your list every single day. And what I mean by that is we know the filter you use to create that list. And so what list automation does is it allows us to add properties into your list as we're updating. And if a property we're updating meets your criteria, we can put it in your list automatically for you. But the main goal is the properties that are in your list already. As the days go by, things are going to change. And so we can automatically remove those records out of your list. Now, what you're referring to, Antoine, is that I think what had happened is that when they automated a list, there are 4 rules that they can choose from. One is to ignore, which is what we're doing already. We're not automating anything. The second option is automatically add to this list, no questions asked. So if I chose this option, today is 19. Tomorrow when I log in, it could be 24, right? So 5 have been added. Now, how do I know which 5 have been added? We introduced the column here at the very far right, and it's the date added to list column. So if we are adding things automatically in here for you, and you're wondering, okay, which one has been added automatically? Look at this column. You'll see that, oh, okay, one was added on June 18th. And then as the days go by, oh, here's another one that was added June 20th, right? So this would be the way to identify the new records if you chose the automatic put it in option. The alternative options are, if you don't want to have to monitor this column of what's being added and what's not, then what I would recommend is designate another list. So create this marketing list and automate it. And when new properties come in, why don't you just have us put it in a different marketing list, right? So here's a perfect example. This is the Fulton County. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a blank group, right? So Fulton County new updates or new records. And so I just created a blank group. So here they are, Fulton County new records, nothing in there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to automate this list. At this time, I'm going to say, when new records go in or meet this list's criteria, I want you to put it in this other list right over here, Fulton County new records. So as the days go by and I'm getting new updates that meet this marketing list's criteria, they won't go in here. They'll go into this other list down here. So maybe after 20 records have hit this list, I now can mark it to this new list, which just so happens to have the same filter as this list. So that is the other option. My favorite option of the bunch is I'll do it myself. So what we'll do is we will notify you of what needs to be added and what needs to be removed. And that's my favorite option. So I do that for new properties that come in, as well as the properties that are in my list. Either ignore them, which is what we're doing now, remove it automatically, or move it into another list, which is a popular one, because just because it doesn't meet your criteria doesn't mean it's not a lead. I mean, it could end up becoming a lead again, right? So I would recommend I would encourage you to maybe move it into another list, like a follow-up list, or
Right.
the best option in my book is I'll do it myself. So when you do that, what happens is if you chose the I'll do it myself, this is what happens. When you click on an automated list, it tells you how many individuals are in that list and how many need to be removed because they no longer meet your criteria. And so I think the reason why they weren't seeing this is because they chose a different rule, and that rule was to just automatically put there. So if they chose to put it in a different list, or I'll do it myself, then you'll see that option where you get to see what needs to be added and removed from that list. And again, you're doing it yourself. So click on that box and then choose what you want to do with this new record, or choose what you want to do with the record that doesn't meet your criteria anymore.
Awesome. Is there anything new coming in PropStream, or anything that you don't mind talking about that we could update the people?
Yes, in less than 2 weeks, we're going to be releasing our mobile application. So we promised that in the month of June, our mobile app will be releasing, and that is still a promise we're keeping. So keep a lookout in the next few weeks. Before the end of the month, you will definitely see the most ambitious real estate application to hit the market. And I say that not to say that, but I say that because I believe that what we've done with our mobile app will set some new standards for what a mobile application will need to be for investors nationwide. So look out for that. I can tell you as well that it's at no additional cost. So if you're a current subscriber right now and you're the primary account holder, you're going to get access to this mobile app at no additional cost. So just look out for the pop-up very soon, allowing you to go to the App Store or the Play Store and get access to your mobile app.
And you just log into it the same way you log into your online account?
Correct. Yeah, you just username and password. I think our team may be doing some other quick sign-in features for you as well. But yeah, I like to call it PropStream in your pocket. I'm playing with it myself. Can't really get too much detail, but I mean, we've been beta testing it for a good while now. And so, yeah, I literally like to say it's PropStream in your pocket, because if you love the data that we have on our desktop version, just imagine that in your pocket. You know what I mean? And so just look out for that. And again, I know people are saying, well, is it a Driving for Dollars app? Yes. I mean, that is just one aspect of this application. So if you are part of that, you do Driving for Dollars, this app will take care of that, but it's going to be more than just that. So look out for that.
And I can't wait. Can't wait. As soon as I get the green light, I'll be doing a review on it, putting it on my YouTube, sharing it from my phone, actually Driving for Dollars, using all the bells and whistles to show these guys that you can run a high-level business and just use something like a PropStream to pull your list, your leads, and manage things. And data is everything. Data is king. So let's go into this real quick. I think I have about 8 minutes left with you. There are some myths that I want to put out right now when it comes to data, right? Can you explain to the people what is a vacant record, and what does that come from? Because everyone always seems to compare other people's data. From as far as my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, all of the vacant records comes from the United States Postal Service database, which is relying on a mail carrier to, with their judgment, tag the property as vacant or not.
Absolutely correct. So vacant listings comes from the United States Postal Service. So the first thing we need to first kind of clear out there is that vacant listings, that word vacant is completely different than an investor's definition of vacant, right? So when I say vacant, investors are like, oh, boarded up house, tall grass, no one's there, the roof fell apart. Yes, you're absolutely right. But that's our definition of vacant, right? The Postal Office, United States Postal Service, they're not investors. Their definition of vacant is an address that's undeliverable, right? So Antoine, you get your address at a specific address. I'm your mail carrier. I'm not an investor. All I know is I need to deliver your mail to your address. Now, for whatever your reason, in the last few days, few weeks, you're not answering the mail. All I know is every day I'm going there, it's just stacking up and stacking up and stacking up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that stack and I'm going to put you on my vacant list. Again, I don't know what had happened. Maybe you sold the property. Maybe you moved out. I don't know. All I know is My job is to deliver your mail, and you haven't been receiving it. So you're on the undeliverable list, or what we call the vacant list at the postal office. And that list is given out once a month to aggregators like us. So first is understand that definition of vacant postal service is not your definition. And when you understand that, you're going to be like, aha, that's why there's recently sold properties in the vacant results. And the reason for that is because, yes, someone sold the house, and this is very common. Someone sold the house to somebody else, and that person forgot to forward their mail. I'm guilty of that. You don't know how many people literally will sell a house and not have their mail forward until they move into the next home. And that is what's happening. So the mail carrier doesn't know the house sold. All the mail carrier knows is the mail is not being addressed anymore by the person that's supposed to get it. They're on the vacant list. Thankfully, we collect public records for you. So you're able to see, oh, okay, this property is on the vacant list, but it just sold. So if you're trying to be easy about it and just going into a market and clicking vacant and then just marketing to that entire list, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. Please make sure you're paying attention to the last sale date. And hey, look, I'm just tell you this right now. The easiest way to get rid of them, use our years of ownership. Say, hey, I want a property that had 8 years of ownership and now it's vacant. So they've owned it for 8 years and last month they weren't answering their mail. That's a lead for you. So that's one thing. The other thing too is we don't, there are some providers out there that will, what's called, they'll run it through a hygiene process. Where what they'll do
and break it down to the people. You lose the people. I know what you're talking about, but what is data hygiene? What is the definition of data hygiene?
So what they do is they'll pull a list from a provider or a source like the vacant list, and what they'll do is they'll make an assumption. That assumption is we believe this is what also needs to be on top of it, right? So what we do is we don't add any adjustments to the vacant. We just give it to you raw data. But some of these other providers, which again, pros and cons, depending on how you want to look at it, they will go in there and automatically apply a logic. They'll say, okay, we got the vacant lists and we know there's recently sold ones in there, but what we're going to do is we're going to put a time frame on it. We're going to say, okay, vacant list, but our system is going to put a 1-year time limit on it or a 2-year time limit on it. And so when you pull a vacant list from said provider, it's not raw data. It's data that's been hygiened or enriched with their logic. So they're making the assumption for you that that's what you need, and then you get that list. The reason that we don't do that is because there are hundreds of different people that use our product, not just investors. We have contractors, lenders, we have obviously wholesalers, fix and flippers. So if we did that, then we will essentially we're dismissing others, right? So if I'm an investor, yes, I don't want a vacant property that's recently sold. I want a vacant property that had 10 years of ownership versus if I'm a contractor and I found out someone just bought a house and it's vacant, I'm probably going to want to call. Or if I'm a agent and I see that a house was bought, it's non-owner occupied and it's vacant and it was bought last month, as an agent, why wouldn't I want to call that person and see if they need a tenant? So that's why we don't add extra to it, is because every user on the other end is different. Sure, some of you guys want vacant properties that didn't recently sold, but there is a different audience out there that need that. And so we don't do that. We don't do any like added adjustments. The only one that we did that with is the cash buyers list. With the cash buyers list, all we did was removed all the owner occupied cash buyers. We figured those weren't real cash buyers. These were people that were buying properties in cash and living in them. So the only adjustment we made with our cash buyers list is removed all of that. But our vacant is raw. You got to go in there and make sure you're either removing those recently sold ones or keeping them there because that's your strategy. I want recently sold vacant properties that are non-owner occupied because I'm going to fill them in with a tenant. And so I'll do that.
Going back to the API guys, that's what I like to call them. When they do this, the logic behind it, like you said, necessarily doesn't mean that it's the correct way to do it, because at the end of the day, like you said, there's different tons of people that's using this data. So like, I like the ability that you give me the option to say, here's the raw data, and now you go filter it, because you know the interface through PropStream is one of the most complex interfaces I've seen thus far. The only thing PropStream is missing that I think that you guys, once you add this, that's the nail in the coffin. It's the ability to add the age limits to the different leads, the credit score, and the income limits to certain leads. If you can figure out a way to have that data intertwined with your data, it's over. You
Oh
know what
yeah,
I mean?
definitely. We can look into it. But just like any other data, yeah, it's a matter of finding that source that provides it at a nationwide level. So
Right.
now that's definitely something that we've already been looking into. It just everything has a logistical side to it. I like to say
Right.
that I wish there was just this one. I wish there was like an Amazon of like place where you can go to this one site and just purchase any data that you want, right?
Right.
And that's another misconception is that this data is not readily available. We actually had to build a network where we're collecting certain information from said provider, while this other provider provides better information on this,
Right.
detail. And so it's just a combination of putting like it's almost uh, like a jigsaw puzzle where we're just finding the best pieces and putting them side by side. And so when you're looking at our data, I hope people understand that the data that you're looking at isn't from one data provider. It's from multiple data providers being laid out on that user interface. And so I do love that suggestion. I will tell you, we've always looked into it, the age limit and whatnot. It's just a little bit challenging because there are some areas where that information is not readily available.
Right. And I agree. I agree. And that's why when I get my data from for that, I just take that and put it in the list automated, and then it
Boom,
compares it.
you read my mind, dude. I
Yeah.
always use that because at the end of the day, look, we know we don't have it all, right? And then that's a thing that I think what separates us from all these other aggregators is we'll be honest. We don't have it all. We really don't. So what we decided to do is spend 2 years creating List Automator. Ask yourself this question: how many data aggregators out there that you know of allow you to import outside data into their platform and code it with their data? They don't
Nobody.
want to
That's
do that because the business, the model that these aggregators are, is it's us versus them. We
right.
want you to come to us and buy our data, and they'll use marketing tactics. They'll say things like our data is updated frequently. Well, which one is updated frequently, right?
And
Because
what
I
does
can
that
tell
mean?
you,
Like I see a lot of people say, "Hey, we the number one data provider. We got the best data." Like, who is regulating us in order to give you the certification that you have the number one data? That's why even on my skip
exactly.
tracing company, I never proclaimed that we have credit bureau data. We never proclaimed that we're number one. Because there isn't anyone that's a third party giving us the opinion to say, "Hey, they are the number one." You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
that's
and,
why
and
we don't
that's
say stuff like that.
that's the thing too. Like that's not what we do, and we understood this a long time ago that there are going to be pockets in the United States that we just aren't fast enough, or it's just not cost effective. Right? You could
Right.
be in a city where there's 5,000 people, and if you expect us to collect the records daily there, it's not happening because there's a person that we need to send to collect that. So that's the biggest misconception. And so what we decided is we said, okay, we don't want to have that business model. Us versus them, that's nonsense. Because at the end of the day, the investor, you guys that are listening, you need as much data as you can have, period. Because you're going to make an informed decision that's going to impact not only your life, but the person that owns that property. So we are the only, I believe, as of right now, the only company where you can import a different provider's data into our system. And why is that? Is because we know we don't have everything, which also means that these other providers don't have everything. So if you go
Exactly.
to a said provider and they have, let's say, the best vacant list, period, okay, great. Let's go get that list. But I can tell you right now, if they don't have mortgage information, they don't have lien information, they don't have MLS information, then how many of those vacant properties have enough equity that you need? Or how many of those vacant properties are off market before you call them? That's why we created List Automator. So if you're going to go off and get someone else's data, let's consolidate together, because wouldn't you want to know how many of those properties are on market, off market, or failed? And that's why List Automator was created. It was, we were kind of fed up with people saying, well, what's the difference between you and them? Now our
Right.
response is, well, hey, bring it on over. That way you can make the best decision possible. And when you bring in that, let's say you do find a list of, homeowners that are 60 years and older, when you drop that list in our system, now we can tell you how many of them are out of state, how many of them are vacant, how many of them have, negative equity, high equity. And that was the idea. We may not have had that list, but we do have other data that can help you make a more informed decision.
I agree, because like I said, I use my bad credit list and I pull up in the list automator, and we text blast, and man, the response rate is through the roof, because we know for a fact that this person is vacant, it's list, it's a failing listener. We see the data, you know what I mean, and it's very visual to us once we integrate the outside data with PropStream. So I agree.
I appreciate that, and you
Anything
see
you
the
want to
big
lead the
picture.
people with? I know you got to get going. Anything you want to lead the people with before we get going?
No, really. I just want to, everybody watching this, I just want to say thank you for what you're doing. I hope what I've been able to share with you kind of, helps you understand the logical side of data. I like to say that, it's live data. You're going to get it because we're directly connected across the board. It's just not a reality. But I want to essentially, at the end of the day, want to say thank you on behalf of PropStream to everybody that's out there using our product. Anybody out there in general, just investing in real estate. What you're doing is impacting our community. Again, we just talked about 38 million lives have been impacted by what has happened this year. And I'm a firm believer, the investors that are watching this and going out there and helping people get out of their situation, you're the real heroes as well. You know what I mean? You're preventing homeowners from losing their homes to the bank, getting their credit destroyed, getting their lives turned upside down. You're going in there and providing solutions. So from PropStream to you guys, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you so much for helping homeowners out there. And I look forward to, answering any questions you guys might have going forward. Just make sure you visit us on our PropStream user community group or give us a call at our call center.
And if someone wanted to reach out to you, how would they reach out to you?
If you need to reach out to me directly, you can find me on Facebook. Just search my name, Burton Alicando, or you can find me on Instagram. Search my name, Burton Alicando. I'm pretty sure I'm the only Burton Alicando out there, so you shouldn't have any problems of finding duplicate profiles.
Man, until next time, brother, I appreciate you. I'm going to lead the people who haven't seen the PropStream premiere video of the app that's coming, that video, then I go ahead and exit the stage. Appreciate you, brother. Man. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Opportunity. It's all around us. Opportunity to find the perfect property, to connect with motivated sellers and cash buyers, and to get the best return on your investments. It's time to seize the opportunity with the power of PropStream. PropStream is the most advanced real estate tool for investors, realtors, and brokers who want to simplify and accelerate their business through useful, up-to-date, multi-source data and targeted marketing. But you already know that, and you already know PropStream allows you to search and evaluate over 153 million properties nationwide and easily run comps to determine current and potential value. And we use the power of big data to give you access to the most comprehensive information you need to make decisions that deliver success. Our unmatched solutions allow you to generate qualified leads, find the most motivated sellers, and engage them with an array of effective marketing tools. This is beyond powerful. And now, you and your team can have the full power of PropStream right in your pocket with our new mobile app. Access PropStream on your phone or tablet. Use it to get property details, run comps, and send marketing right on the spot. And rest assured, we've also taken driving for dollars to the next level. Now is the time to focus, create opportunities, and close more deals. It's time to unleash the power of PropStream.
Appreciate you guys. See you guys next week. Thank you so much. If you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor, like and subscribe to the channel. I promise you, we got a bunch of amazing content on the way. You won't be disappointed. See you next week. I got more guests lined up. The Nothing But Nuggets show is going to be an international success. I promise you. Catch you guys later. Sacrifice now. Ball forever. Do something spectacular. And happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Happy Father's Day. Thank you to all the dads out there that's taking care of your children, taking care of your stepchildren, and raising the next generation of kids. See you guys next week. Appreciate you. Peace and love.